So I've been covering Baldur's Gate 3 for over 4 years now, since before the early access period began, and then of course throughout the 3 years of the game's early access. And I've always expected this game to be an industry leader within its own genre, the CRPG genre, which is a little bit more niche than the general RPG genre or the ARPG genre like Diablo and games like that. But little did I know, and a little did apparently everyone else know, including Larian Studios themselves, Baldur's Gate 3 is exploding right now. If you just type in Baldur's Gate 3 on Google, you're going to see all sorts of headlines. Over here on Yahoo, Yahoo's still a thing? Baldur's Gate 3 is so popular it almost broke Steam. Then over on GamerRant.com, Baldur's Gate 3 is already one of the most popular games in Steam history. Let's go ahead and take a look at the actual charts to see if we can see what this is all about. So over on SteamDB.com, we have a current peak of 714,707 players playing Baldur's Gate 3 at the same time, and that is the 24-hour peak, and of course this game's all-time peak, as the game only came out a few days ago. Now it is possible that this could go up, as we are still on the weekend right now, and Sunday tends to be a pretty big gaming day. But either way, this number is already incredible. It's already surpassed pretty much everybody's expectations, especially for a game that falls into this genre. Now let's go ahead and compare it to some other Steam games. And if we take a look at steamdb.info/charts, we can see the most played games of all time on Steam. And just so you all know, on other websites, they are reporting the same exact numbers too. So steamcharts.com is reporting the same exact numbers as SteamDB. And right now I have it set on the 24-hour peak, and Baldur's Gate 3 is currently occupying the second place spot right here. But Baldur's Gate 3 did just come out too, so of course there's going to be more players playing it right when it comes out. So we have to look at the all-time peak to see if this actually really means anything, even though that already is a really good number. So let's go ahead and click on all-time peak. And Baldur's Gate 3 still lies within the top 10 of the most played games on Steam. It is directly underneath Hogwarts Legacy, one of the biggest franchises in the world, the Harry Potter franchise. And Hogwarts Legacy is also an action RPG, much more approachable to pretty much anybody. There's a ton of people that played Hogwarts Legacy that don't even play video games. And Baldur's Gate 3 is right underneath Hogwarts Legacy. Now, Hogwarts Legacy did, of course, release on consoles as well, and this is just the Steam charts, but still, this is pretty incredible. Baldur's Gate 3 being in the top 10 is so good for fans of this genre, fans of party-based games, fans of games that remind you of the classic RPGs of the past, such as Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Now, if we look further up on this chart right here, Elden Ring is in 6th place. We're not that far. Well, I don't want to say we're. I'm not on Team Baldur's Gate 3. I loved Elden Ring too. Baldur's Gate 3 is not that far behind Elden Ring. And then Cyberpunk CDPR is in 5th place. Baldur's Gate 3 is only 300,000 concurrent players behind Cyberpunk, which is such a mainstream game. AAA, high quality. Of course, people are going to debate that because it came out quite buggy. But Cyberpunk is literally just like the definition of like an RPG, first-person shooter type game that everybody just wants to play. And then, of course, at the top, we have PUBG and Counter-Strike. So Baldur's Gate 3 being in the top 10 here is absolutely massive. And let me tell you something. The owner of Larian Studios didn't expect this himself. So if we go ahead and take a look at a past tweet by Sven Vinka, the owner and creative director at Larian Studios, he said, probably should stay away from the IT team for a while. Told them that they should expect like 100K or so at max. And he shows a screenshot of Baldur's Gate 3 when it was at 500,000 concurrent players. And now, as of Sunday, August 6th, it's at 700,000 concurrent players. So, you know what this tells you? First and foremost, if Sven Vinka was expecting 100K or so peak concurrent players when the game came out, the amount of time and money and resources that they're putting into this game, if he expected that and he was going to be happy with that number, that just goes to show you that there's a lot of gaming companies out there that are kind of robbing us of what we should be getting for a product here. So I think this is really, really good, and this is going to be a wake-up call for the entire gaming industry. And on top of that, this is also going to introduce so many people to the CRPG genre of games that didn't necessarily ever show any interest in it before, because, come on, let's be honest here, if you're not a CRPG player, if you see somebody playing a CRPG, you're like, what the heck is that? Like, I don't got time to try to figure out all those systems. Just give me a character and let me swing my sword and kill things. And I think this is also good for all of the smaller CRPG, more indie-like, or even AA studios out there that are making games within this genre, because so many players are now introduced to this genre, this entry point of Baldur's Gate 3, and you bet your ass some of those players are going to look more into games like this, and they're going to look at the Pathfinder series, they're going to look at Solasta and games of that nature. So instead of looking at this as, oh no, Baldur's Gate 3 is so good that nobody's going to want to play our lesser budget games, it should be more so, oh wow, Baldur's Gate 3 is doing so good, more people are going to be looking at our lesser budget games now. That's how I think it's going to play out. Now, we're not done yet with the news too, because we also have to talk about PlayStation. Look at the PlayStation best-selling pre-orders. Baldur's Gate 3. It was actually, when I checked it earlier, it was behind Madden, but now it's in first place because Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out on PlayStation on September 6th. This is even crazier now. Like, this isn't even a game that traditionally releases on console, this style of games, and now it's #1 best-selling on PlayStation Store as of right now. So this is also going to make waves on consoles. And then when Larian Studios figures out the Xbox Series S problems that they're having with a split screen and developing on that system, it's also going to come to Xbox at some point. So this is just this blows my mind. It really makes me so happy because I've been covering this game for such a long time. I really believed in the company behind this product, and I really believed in the product itself. And now just to see everybody enjoying it is such a joy for myself as well. And before we push on to the next section, I do want to quickly just mention that I think part of the reason why BG3 is so massively successful, outside of the obvious reasons, is that Larian spent so much time on making this game accessible and approachable to a larger audience. They spent that extra time. They added things such as controller support, but not just controller support. It really works on controller, and that brings in a whole other base of players that don't like using mouse and keyboard. I'm sure they very much appreciate being able to play a game like this in the style that they want to play it, in a way that they're comfortable with. And on top of that, Larian also made this game 4-player co-op and included split screen co-op. They went above and beyond, and it clearly is showing. Now, on top of all this, the reviews on Steam are very positive overall. 91% of 91,000 reviews for this game are positive, but then recent reviews, which in my opinion matter more right now, because you got to keep in mind this game has been in early access for a very long time, and a lot of these reviews are from early access when the game had a lot more bugs and problems and it was quite unfinished. The recent reviews are overwhelmingly positive. 95% of 35,000 user reviews in the last 30 days are positive, and I will do a video going over these reviews, the positives and the negatives. So I'm just so happy right now because Larian Studios really is a passionate, good company. I've, been to their studio several times, have nothing but good things to say about them, including other content creators feeling the exact same way as me. We have a really big product in our hands right now, but also a quality product that takes cinematics to the next level. It takes player agency and permutations to the next level. This is a game that has massive scope, but within it, it's very, very dense with content and opportunities. Instead of just being a gigantic game with not much in it, it's a gigantic game with a spider web of different things that can occur to players. Nobody's going to have the same exact playthrough, which also adds to the replayability of the game as well. So very, very happy with the current success of Baldur's Gate 3, and hopefully it keeps growing. Can't wait to see what Larian Studios' next project is going to be. And also hopefully Baldur's Gate 3 inspires smaller companies to want to be like Larian one day. And also hopefully it's kind of an oh shit moment for the AAA companies that have even more money than Larian Studios has, that are putting out 20% of the product that Larian Studios did with Baldur's Gate 3 right there. I know it's a lot more complicated than that, as a lot of these AAA companies have the suits at the top, which are tied to investors. Some of them are in the stock market and all that. But as a consumer, I don't care. If I know you're a big company that has a really big budget, and I can see what other big companies are able to do, I want you to at least attempt to do that and not fill your game with microtransactions or a big empty open world and then release it with really high quality graphics and claim that this is the next big thing. I don't care about what investors you have to appease. And if that is your business structure, well, maybe that business structure needs to burn down. Maybe more companies need to figure out how to be like Larian. So Baldur's Gate 3, I think, is a win for pretty much the entire gaming industry, especially for consumers and also especially for the CRPG genre. I can't wait to see what gaming is going to be like over the next 10, 20 years for that genre specifically. So thank you all so much for watching. I know I probably rambled a little bit in this video. It might have been a little bit sloppy, but I've got a lot going on right now. Trying to beat the game myself offline. I'm also streaming the game and also trying to put out guides for you all. So have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you on the next one.